I've wanted to get you on for a long time. So I'm glad you finally found time to come on. So what's been up, man? How you been?
No, I mean, can't complain. I mean, there's not much sports going on, but I mean, we had a little taste of high school football tonight, so always good to watch some high school football and hoping and praying that we get a season, but it's not looking good.
Yeah, man, that's what I wanted to get your perspective on. I saw today was the Monongalia County. They're not playing. Kanawha County's not playing. So I know you've really put a lot of time and effort into the high school game, and also I know how Hoover's doing too. I gotta know how the alma mater's keeping up and everything like that. So, but yeah, man. So what's your whole take on this? Like, how do you see it planning out? From here to the end of the season, and so on and so forth.
My opinion, I mean, obviously it's not worth much, but I'm going to give it to you. Now, I don't think that, in my opinion, I don't think you see football in Kanawha County until October, November. I don't think we play it all this month. It doesn't look like the numbers are going down. Like you said, up in Morgantown, they were in red and Justice canceled. Like they were supposed to play, University was supposed to play at Parkersburg South, and Morgantown was supposed to play Bridgeport. Well, he shut both of those programs down. They couldn't play. And University was on their way to their game in Parkersburg when they found out that they weren't playing tonight. And I think the color coding, obviously, there could be a million ways to do it, but I think this is not the right way to do it. Because, okay, if the official map comes out on Saturdays at 9, how can you determine the next week with something that comes out the week before?
Yeah, so it's really what it really happens. So it's basically based on the previous week, per se. Not, let's say it comes out on Thursdays, which would be a smart thing to do. So that way, hey, cancel this game or cancel this game.
And here's my thing. We've talked to a lot of coaches. And the big thing is if South Charleston's supposed to play Capital tomorrow night, or tonight, actually. But here's my thing. Why not test both teams prior? And if neither one of the staffs, the players have COVID, why can't they play?
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I've really, as a high school sport, I knew there'd be issues with this going forward. I think I even said it probably back in like July or August in one of the episodes I did. I wasn't too confident, besides the NFL at least. The NFL, I was confident they'd be playing. College, I was 50-50, and it was actually even lower than that. High school, I'm actually shocked that they made it this far with it. In my honest opinion, if you look back a couple weeks ago, now I know things have, depend on who you ask, maybe getting worse, maybe getting better. Then this whole color coding thing came out. So how does this affect, you were talking earlier before we started about the playoff process.
That's my biggest question. Number one, with the SSAC, you normally have to have a certain amount of games to qualify for the playoffs or play a certain number of teams. Well, they're going to have to finagle that, I guess you could say, because what if these teams, because South Charleston's supposed to play Capital Friday. Well, that game they were going to move until Monday, and then they were going to play St. Albans on Saturday. But you can't do that every week because then you're playing Saturday night and then you're turning right around with 1 day's rest and playing another different team on Monday.
Yeah.
But it raises a question because what happens if, like the example I gave you, South Charleston would play Morgantown in the first round of the playoffs, just hypothetically, and Kanawha County's orange. Does that mean Morgantown moves on? Do you try to – you can't – and it's just like I've talked to a lot of people about college football too. What are you going to do with bowl games if you're only playing a conference schedule in the NCAA?
Yeah.
If you're playing conference only, and then your bowl games is where these advertisers and everybody makes all their money, what in the world are you going to do? And with high school, and it's a lot different because high school football, you don't have, the doctors on staff. You don't have all this stuff that the college athletes have. And if high schools had, 10 doctors on staff or whatever it is at, a big time university, we wouldn't be sitting here tonight talking about, well, are they going to play? Are they not? What's going on? I mean, anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's interesting right now because you have Polka's playing tomorrow at Wheeling Central. You got Hurricane playing Huntington tonight, but nobody in Kanawha County can play. Like Nitro and Polka, I think, are 3 to 4 miles apart.
Yeah.
And just because they're in a different county means Polka can play and Nitro can't. They're in the same conference, and can't play.
I mean, yeah, Nitro and Polka are very. I mean, Hurricane's not very far either.
Mm-hmm.
Any of the bordering county schools are not very far. Now, yeah, I knew this would be a mess, and I don't know. That's why I wanted to ask you too. Are they making the games up, like as a Monday thing?
Well, I mean, some are trying to, but here's the thing too, because they started football 2 weeks. They pushed football back. They started football back 2 weeks, this summer. Well, that already messed a bunch of schedules up because when you're bye week, you have to put this team in. And then I was listening to Coach Davis. He was doing an interview tonight from head coach at Nitro. What about Nitro plays Chapmanville? Well, Chapmanville's been red for the longest time when the maps came out, and you have to have 14 practices in before you can even play. And Chapmanville doesn't have practices in. So what's going to happen there? Because if Nitro's out of game, everybody else's schedule's full. I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, it's a gigantic mess right now.
Yeah. So do you think this is going to have any effect going into like basketball or even into baseball?
I think.
Or if so, how?
I think it's been like that since March. When all this started, we were at the state tournament covering the girls basketball tournament, and they canceled everything midday on day 2. And then they kept saying, "Oh, we'll start this day. We'll start this day. Everything will." They kept pushing it back, and then ended up canceling. The rest of the basketball season and all the spring sports. I mean, it's crazy because a lot of these kids, they don't get that extra year eligibility like these NCAA players are getting. I mean, you're in high school, you're in there for 4 years, and that's it.
Yeah.
And then you got kids their senior year are working towards a scholarship, and a coach is like, "Oh yeah, we'll come watch him play this year." Well, what if he don't play?
I mean, that if you look at it in that way, at least, yeah, you got to feel bad for the players there. Because in college, say like baseball, for example, where they canceled it, 15 games in, they gave those players an option to gain an extra eligibility if they wish. But these, like you said, these high school players, they don't get that. You're a senior, you're done. Like there's no going back.
No.
So whatever you had built up between then, that's who the people you really, really feel for. And I couldn't imagine. I didn't really play sports too much in high school. So I was running track. That was really about it. But no, you feel bad for those type of players. And I was talking to a buddy of mine. He actually played football in high school. And I asked him, I was like, man, imagine just being at like the Hoover standpoint per se. Imagine, if I was born 10 years later. I started high school in 2006. So you go forward 10 years, that's 2016. That's the first year that they weren't in actual school.
Right.
There's that. And then you had, at the end of that, you would have had COVID. So it would have been completely different of a high school field, just 10 years apart. And I asked my buddy, I was like, how do you think that would? He's like, man, that sucked. Like, especially from a football athletic standpoint as well.
Yeah, our graphic designer, sorry to interrupt, but our graphic designer actually goes to Hoover.
Oh, really?
And he'll be a senior this upcoming year. And I mean, he said we've been in portable classrooms, and now we have COVID to deal with. Like, he's just like you were saying. I mean, he's started in the portables, and now he's got COVID to deal with. Like, and that's the thing too. I mean, being a former high school athlete, I got to finish my season. Whether we won or lost, I still know how it ended.
Yeah.
And a lot of these seniors from last year, like basketball, baseball, they didn't get to know how it ended. It ended because of COVID. And I mean, it was just rough. We actually did an interview at the Civic Center with a girl from Parkersburg Catholic the day it canceled. And they ended up winning their game by like 20 or 30 points. And when we interviewed her, I'm telling you, it was the worst interview I've ever done in my life, just because I felt so bad because she was a senior.
Yeah.
And that was it. Like they had a chance to make a run, and it's over like that.
Yeah, you got to feel for those type of people though, and because it's looking at it like, man, you could look at it. It's not like an injury or anything like that, man. You had no control. I mean, some injuries you have no control over either. Sometimes it just happens. But with this, there was nothing that you did that caused this.
Nope.
It's just like anyone losing their job over this whole thing. You did nothing wrong, and it was a power from outside of your control that ends up just knocking it, out.
Mm-hmm.
And
exactly.
And that's to everyone that's going up to especially from the Hoover again, that shit was actually going into, I could not imagine that, like going to even sharing school and then going through portables, and you're still in the portables probably for another 2 more years at least.
Oh, at least. I mean, don't get me wrong, the new school looks beautiful.
Oh yeah,
but I mean, then you'll have top of the line like locker rooms and everything. But
yeah,
I mean, if you're not if you're a senior, you have no idea what that feels like. Like, no. I mean,
you have not went to a real school probably since you were in maybe like 6th, 7th grade, maybe in elementary school, maybe, because if you were in Elkview, you had to deal with the portables out front.
Yep.
So in that sense right there, that sucks. I couldn't imagine that.
Oh no.
No. So, but I mean, to the new school, that's something that I'm. You look back and you're like, man, the flood in that way, I think that was fucking shitty. But you have a new school out of it. I mean, it would be a state-of-the-art school. But I've always said this, and I've said this, I think I told you this the other day, is I really am a firm believer in, if it wasn't for Mike Kelly, that school, they would have just consolidated. They would just put so many in Capital, so many here. I just don't see the whole point in it. Because at the time, Hoover, before he came around, was do whatever you wanted. And he's done a really good job at, bringing it back around to actually like a respectable school. So kudos to that. But yeah, so how do you what do you think about the new football coach? I want to ask Hoover? You about that. Yeah.
I think it was a fantastic hire. I think Coach Fields, I mean, we interviewed him a few months back on our podcast, and I mean, great guy. Told us we're always welcome in Hoover. So, once all this stuff starts to die down, and hopefully it's still football season, we head up to Hoover and catch a game. I mean, I think they couldn't have picked a better person for the job. I mean, he has championship pedigree, coached at Martinsburg, coached at Mingo Central when they won their championship. He's been under a lot of great coaches. And I think it's fantastic. I think Hoover's going to be headed in the right direction.
Man, that's awesome. That's good, man, because I think the one thing that I think it's finally kind of coming around for Hoover is the talent-wise. I mean, because from the area, you don't really have the cream of the crop, or you have the cream of the crop, but you don't have abundance of it.
Right.
Say like a Hurricane or a GW, you have thousands of kids in your school, so you have less to really choose from. So having a great coach that can coach and build up, knowing what he has, that's awesome. So I haven't went up to a game. It's probably been, I think, about 2 years now.
Until we started covering high school sports, I graduated in 2007 from Cross Lanes Christian. I haven't been back on campus until we covered a game out there that they played this year against Charleston Catholic. And that 12, 13 years since I've been on campus.
Man, when'd you graduate from there?
When?
Yeah.
2007.
That's a 7. Okay. All right. Yeah, I always forgot you went there.
Yeah, Josh graduated in 06.
Man. Yeah, I always forget about that. But man, it's crazy how time flies though. You don't really feel like it's been that far off. I graduated in 2010, but part of me feels like it was yesterday, but part of me feels like it was like 20 years ago.
Oh yeah.
Because you're almost a completely different person by then. in a
I
sense.
promise it goes quicker.
Like that's what I'm saying. Like it's I mean, high school was just it was fun, but part of me says, man, I used to want to go back. Now I'm like, nah, I wouldn't go
But
back.
but yeah, man. I mean, it's been a mess with everything going on with the COVID and trying to schedule. I mean, normally you don't see, and this is just from our standpoint, you don't see Martinsburg come down to Charleston to play
No.
at all. Well, with the surrounding states, they normally schedule in Maryland, Virginia, and where those teams have either canceled or postponed to the spring, Martinsburg had to fill their schedule. Well, they're coming down to Cabell Midland, who they played last year for the state championship game, and then they're coming down to South Charleston. So they're coming down here twice, let alone just once. Like, they're coming down here twice to play just because they needed games.
Man, I wish that happened more, though. If you get like a Martinsburg and like a Capital playing the regular season or even a Cabell Midland, because that is a good point where they act. I mean, going to the Panhandle, the Eastern Panhandle, is not the most simplest. Yeah,
it's a 5-hour drive, legit. Because we went up there twice, not this past summer, but the one before. Went up there twice, and talked to some coaches in Hedgesville, interviewed some players and stuff like that. And it's a 5-hour drive from Charleston to Martinsburg. And the bad part is you have to leave West Virginia and go into Maryland and come back into West Virginia to get to Martinsburg.
Man, yeah, there's really no, unless you want to drive through the mountains at least. But there's no, the interstate wise, there's only those two. So before, I meant to ask you this before, but tell everyone what you do. Tell them exactly who you are, because I know some people is probably like, man, how does he know all this about high school sports right now? So please tell everybody who you are.
I'm Jeremy. We run a company called West Virginia Sports News, and what we do is we cover local high school athletes. We, live stream games. We promote local athletes, and that's our biggest thing. We sat down one evening and we started talking, and we thought that this was the best route to go because nobody in the state does what we do. We promote high school athletes from all over the state. We started with recruiting, and we have, I believe, 24, 25 clients currently. We have 5 football players and 19 or 20 girls basketball players that we promote. And what we do when we talk about promote, we do an edit every month of each client. We post it. We promote them on social media, on Facebook and Twitter. And then we send their tape out to college coaches at every level. We sit down and we do our preseason top 25 list of players to watch, or, best players in AAA, AA, and single A. We sit down. When we do that, we break down our list. We sit down and watch hours upon hours of footage. It's not like, oh, yeah, we just put a list together. No, we sit down and we do the work. But our biggest thing here in West Virginia is we think a lot of athletes go overlooked because it's West Virginia. So we're here to help. And, everybody's like, oh, you'll do a great job. Thank you so much. And number one, we never promote ourselves. And that's the thing. I'm not here to promote me. I'm not here to promote, our staff. I'm here to promote these kids in the state that deserve a shot, just like, kids in Texas and Florida and everywhere else across the country. But we have helped, in the 2 years we've been a company, we've helped about 48 different athletes achieve their dreams of playing at the next level. And, everybody's like, oh, thank you so much for helping me get this offer. And I'm like, look, we didn't do nothing but promote you. You put the hard work in, you put the work in the classroom, on the field. We're just getting your tape in front of coaches. And I mean, being able, when a kid reaches out to you and says, hey, I got my first offer, and the excitement that it makes everything worth it.
Yeah. And that's awesome.
And we love what we do. So
how long you been doing it for?
This will be our 3rd football season this year, if we have a season. But we officially started, I think it was March of 2018. So we had 18 football season, 19 football season, and then obviously this year will be our 3rd football season.
Man, because I remember I saw you probably a couple years ago, and this is when you were first starting it out, I believe. Because you just started doing like podcasting and everything like that. And I remember you said something about it. And then it's, kind of grown into what it is now. That's pretty awesome stuff, man. Like that's, so what, like when you first started, was there something that you, just like you had to get past or something? Like how'd you get started per se?
we got started. This is a funny story. Me and a buddy of mine were talking, and I said I was going through a rough patch, and I said, hey, I need something to dive into and take my focus off everything else. And he was like, all right. So we sat down one night, we talked for a few hours, and we said, this is what we want to do. I'm telling you, the first year has been the hardest. Just because, I mean, you gotta make those relationships, you gotta make those contacts at schools and colleges, and I'm telling you, we went to 7 or 8 different, just not even high school football camps. We went to 7 or 8 like camps held by the high school just to build that relationship with like the coaches that are holding the camp for 7, 8 year olds. And the first year was everything was out of pocket. We didn't have any kind of sponsorship, anything like that. This last year we got a little better, but this year, I mean, we're still grinding and just moving. And if you'd have told me 2 years ago when we started that 2 years later we'd be where we're at, and we have 10,000 followers on Facebook and almost 6,000 on Twitter, I'd have laughed and said, "You must be out of your mind."
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I mean, when you do stuff the right way and you do things to promote the kids and the betterment of the kids in the state of West Virginia, couldn't have picked a better staff.
Yeah.
The staff we have currently, fantastic, always helping, and being able to help kids that's where it's at. I mean, it's not about me. It's not about anybody else on our staff. It's about helping these kids and getting their name out there in colleges and hoping that they get a chance to play at the next level.
Man, that's awesome stuff, man. It's all, I mean, the people you put around you, that's really, at the end of the day, and I think you got the right direction going. And, to your point, I mean, the first year, just me starting this, it's kind of been the same way. I've only been doing this for about 2 months now, but it's fun. It keeps you preoccupied on other shit, outside, so I totally understand that point. But yeah, man, congrats on how much has grown to that,
Thank you.
Yeah, man. So what I'll do is also, I'll remind him at the end of the video too, but I'll put a link when we post out that way. So if you guys want to follow his page, if you're into high school sports, they even talk a couple, West Virginia. You guys do signings and stuff, right? Like you guys.
What do you mean signings?
And don't you guys do like you guys used to have like people come in, or is that might be for somebody else? But no, if you're into like high school sports and stuff, this is your guy to follow right here. We'll get you the right information.
And that's the thing. I mean, we also do. I mean, and everybody's like, "Oh, you just promote football and girls basketball." No, it's just the ones that have signed up so far.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna pitch us for just a second. We do the recruiting aspect of everything, and like I said, we have about 25 current clients. We have football and girls basketball. Look, we'll promote anybody. We normally sit down, myself and our president, we sit down with you. We have a meeting, whether it be, out to dinner, something like that. And our big thing is, number one, when you sign with us, you represent us. It's not anybody else now. It's us and yourself and your school. And that's the thing. Like, my first question is going to be not what you can do on the field or the court. It's what's your GPA? Because when we talk to college coaches, that's the first question we get asked is what's their GPA? Because look, if you're not putting the work in the classroom, what makes them think that you're going to do it on the football field or basketball court or, volleyball court or whatever sport you play? You're a student athlete. Student always comes before athlete. And that's the thing. You may have all the talent in the world, but if your GPA is not right, coaches ain't taking a chance. I can promise that.
Yeah, man, that's a very good point. And that's man, that's crazy if you really kind of build it that much. And to your point of you saying that, getting the clientele that you guys need, or as in clientele, as in, the people that actually trust your work, stuff like that. That's really hard to find and stuff. So that's awesome, and definitely
every one of our clients, except for our 2023, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, all of our 21 clients, girls basketball, already has at least one offer. And that's
awesome.
I think it's about 11 or 12 currently that have an offer. We have some 23s and stuff like that, but a little young to start recruiting at a freshman. But nowadays you never know.
Is there any freshmen that have offers?
They're not ours, but I believe WU offered a kid football and girls women's basketball that were 23, if I'm not mistaken.
Man, that's so. Speaking of WU, I want to kind of turn it up a little bit here. So
Okay.
What's your expectations on WU this year, and also the outlook with college football? It's a little bit better shape than what we are in high school right now. But what's your feelings on all that?
Oh, we got college football tomorrow, and I can't wait. I know it's Marshall football, but
yeah,
hey, football's football. I'm hoping and I'm praying we get a season. I don't care at this point if we can go to Morgantown. If we can't go to Morgantown for a game, oh well. As long as we get, like, tomorrow was supposed to be W Florida State.
Oh, that's right.
And it sucks, but I think W, in my opinion, this year, I think we're on the right track. I'm not going to say that, we're going to, because you don't know how many games we're even going to play.
Yeah.
I think W's headed in the right direction. I think Neal Brown was a great hire. And if you just look at the recruiting from the time Holgorsen was here and the time Neal Brown's been here, W signed the best offensive lineman in the state in Wyatt Milam from Spring Valley, who had offers from Alabama, Ohio State, and got him to stay home and go to WU. Obviously, Darnell Wright a couple years ago from Huntington, signed with Tennessee. But I talked to him after his commitment. We went down there and covered it. He said Neal Brown was down in Huntington more in 2 weeks than Holgorsen than Dana was in 4 years.
Speak to that point right there. This also kind of ties into the high school too. I feel like West Virginia, they're never going to be, well, I can't say never. There's always that possibility. Mm-hmm. But consistently, they're never going to be like a Georgia or an Alabama, right. Recruiting level that high. Never top 5, top 10 consistently. Yeah, they might get that class every now and then. Right. But what West Virginia has to do, and what West Virginia does lack, and I think they've gotten better as the years have gone by here recently, is high school recruiting within the state, talent-wise.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like there's more talent now in the state that's actually D1 worthy that used to be, say, 10 years ago.
Oh yeah,
and West Virginia has to get the D1 prospects out of the state.
And that's the thing, and you have to keep these kids home.
Yeah,
and in the story, like, there's no question about it. If there's kids in this state that have D1 potential, which I think the talent pool in the state is a lot deeper than it has been.
Yeah.
You look at recruiting, just compare W's recruiting class this upcoming year to Holgorsen's at Houston's. His is towards the bottom.
Yeah.
W, what I was told, I don't know if we've signed anybody. I don't really keep up much with W recruiting. But I got told a couple months ago, if W signs one more 4-star kid, this will be the best class in W history.
Yeah.
And that's including Tavon and Gino and then Noel Devine's class. Like, better than those.
I think the best, if I remember correctly, if you want to look this up, you can. But I'm pretty sure that one of the best classes what she ever had was the 07 class. It was Rich Rod's last class. I think they were that was one of the higher ranking ones. Probably. If I remember correctly. But then you also had the class of Tavon, all them. But yeah, that's what Washington, they have to do. And me and you both agree on that. They have to get, if that player is D1, like players like Ryan Switzer, I understand if he has his own, if that's something he wants to do, something we don't know behind closed doors. But Dana should have been, Dana should have been.
Let me tell you why Switzer didn't come to W.
Why is that?
And I heard this from a very reliable source. Dana didn't offer him until it was too late.
See, why? I mean, I'm thinking like, listen, if like I said before, if Switzer has his own ways that he wants to do things, or something we don't know behind closed doors, but why? If I'm Dana Holgorsen, I am sitting in front of his house every Saturday morning. Like, hey man, you want to talk?
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
Well, here's the thing too. If you look at Dana's recruiting history, Dana never signed a high school quarterback worth anything at all.
Oh,
he had Skylar Howard, who was a JUCO transfer. Yeah. Clint Trickett transferred from Florida State. Greer transferred from Florida because he had nowhere else to go.
Look at the quarterbacks. The two, and I was really high on this kid, and I caught slack for it. Was Ford Childress. I was really, really high on Ford Childress. I knew after there was the who did we play? Georgia State. We played Georgia State 2013 season. All right, Millard came and stunk it up the first game against Oklahoma. Could have won the game. Millard was a bum. Okay, my opinion. Okay, and then Fort Childress comes in, true freshman, 6'5" something, 240, whatever it was. Yeah, looked the part. All right. So he comes out, and then Georgia State. Yeah, there's like their first season FBS or whatever. And then he comes, then he plays Maryland the next week in Baltimore and stinks it up. And then that's just the theme of his entire existence there. It seemed like you had him, you had William Crest. Crest didn't pan out.
He had so much
positions. There's one more. He had a couple at Saunders or Cody Saunders, whatever. Didn't work out. It just seemed like you had a lot of transfers.
You're forgetting one. You're forgetting Chuckinoff.
Oh God, Chuckinoff! How could I forget? That dude was complete garbage.
And then right before he left, you had Trey Lowe, who had so much hype.
Trey Lowe, I don't know the story about that one yet. I know keeping up with West Virginia baseball, that was one reason he did pick West Virginia was because he could play both sports.
But I'm telling you, Dana never recruited a quarterback out of high school, and that panned out. I mean, his were all transfers. His first year when we won the Orange Bowl was not his class, so I don't count Geno in any of them.
No, as you shouldn't. It's and Dana, I think he started off, was it 15 and 3 started off. If you count the 10 and 3 season, beating Clemson in the Orange Bowl, all right, and then the first 5 games starts 5-0. Then he goes down to Texas Tech and gets his ass whooped. And then after that, man, it's just.
Can we compare programs?
Sure.
From the Orange Bowl, from the time we beat Clemson, since we've beat Clemson, look what they've done.
Clemson better thank us. That's all I gotta say. That's all I gotta say. Listen. I have family in South Carolina that live down there. They're diehard Clemson fans. All right. I love them to death. And I have respect for Clemson. If they're playing Alabama, guess what? I'm gonna be picking Clemson. All right. That's just the way it goes.
Right.
So they better thank us. Yeah, did it suck in your ass whooped? 70-33 on national television? Yeah, it did. But guess what you got out of it? You got a couple of national championships. You got Heisman Trophy.
Fantastic quarterbacks. I mean, you had Deshaun Watson. Now you got Trevor Lawrence. You had DeAndre Hopkins. You had Sammy Watkins.
Like Boyd was no bum either.
Right, that's
bad. Yeah. Oh yeah, I mean, but no, Dana. I was really, when I really started to turn on Dana was the 2015 season. I was really at that point with Dana. I was at the breaking point with Dana. It was the TCU game. It was on a Thursday night. I don't know if you remember that game or not. We started off 3-0. We got ranked, and then we had to go into Oklahoma, got thumped.
That he could never get over that hump, and my opinion, that's why he left Morgantown. That's why he left Morgantown, because he couldn't compete in the Big 12. He couldn't win a Big 12 championship, so he had to go to a lesser conference. And guess what? You went 4-8 last year, and from what I got told, 3 of your wins have to be vacated because you cheated.
Oh, really? Wow. Well, what's that?
And then, Neal's first year taking over everything last year, and then you had a bunch of academic issues, scandals, or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, you had Derek Pitts from South Charleston who left and went to Marshall. Kenny Robinson, who's now in the NFL, all left because of academic reasons, because of academic misconduct, is what I got told. And supposedly Dana knew, and who knows if he did, who knows if he didn't. But it was just a mess under him.
See, that's what I'm saying, man. It's like he, and after that TCU game, I think we lost like 4 in a row because that was when we played Oklahoma, we played TCU, we played Baylor. That was when Baylor was still had Bryce Petty. I think it was no, they didn't have Bryce Petty. I don't think, but they might have. And then we played. Who was the other one? Played Baylor,
Probably
TCU,
Texas.
Oklahoma. No, it wasn't Texas. Oklahoma State. Yeah, it was Oklahoma State. We played 4 straight ranked teams. I think 2 of them were in the top 10 or 3 of them in the top 10. One of the 2.
All I know is Patrick Mahomes still never beat WU. Let's just throw that out there.
And I think this Dana, if it wasn't for getting Will Greer, because I really think if he never would have, thank God, you know what I'm saying? I'm a huge Will Greer fan. I think he's probably, and we could talk about this too, is I would take him over any WU quarterback. If we're looking at pure quarterback, I know. Listen, I'm just saying.
Don't get me wrong. I love Will Greer. But I'm not taking him. Number 1, I'm not taking him over Pat White. Number 2, I'm not taking him over Major Harris.
Let me say this. Let me rephrase this before we get too far into this with the Pat White thing, because I know it will touch a lot of different people. All right, is the type of offense? Let's go over that first. If we're in a offense, we're in the Big 12 right now. Dana's, Neal Brown's. I'm taking a passing quarterback. I want somebody, Pat White. I think today was before his time.
Oh, I agree.
A lot of different ways. His mobility been nice. Now, I would love to see how it would have translated. Say he would have played in the Big 12. It sucks to do that. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, if you want to do that, I'm still taking Geno.
I mean, Geno's not a bad pick. You can't go wrong with any of them. You really can't. You really can't. But
you give me Geno and his receivers, and you take Greer and his receivers, and I guarantee you I put up more points than you do.
Man, listen, I respect your opinion on this because you can't go wrong with it. You really can't.
No.
You really cannot. And it's really, I would love to see Will Greer at least one more year, or let me say this. Could you imagine
what happens if he doesn't get hurt against Texas?
He probably leaves for the draft. I think he leaves, so it was honestly a blessing in disguise,
Bro, we were at the game, and I'm telling you, his finger was disgusting.
Yeah, I remember watching it work. Yeah, it was, and that's the thing. If you compare his stats, I think he passed for 75 total some touchdowns. All right, Geno had like 99 or around 100 total. Will Greer's got another year, plus he plays that full season. He shatters that. If you look at that type of stuff right there.
But I agree, but here's the thing too. I'll give you that. I'll give you that all day. But here's the thing too. Geno could hand the ball off to Tavon.
True.
We put up 70 points our first game in the Big 12 against Baylor and won 70-60. And that's the thing with Geno when he was here. You either had a good offense or a good defense. No, W never put it together while he was here. You either had one or the other.
Man, I'll be completely honest with you. I remember I went up to see the Syracuse game in 2010. It was Geno's sophomore year. It had been Bill Stewart's last year there. And we had the ball at the end of the game, ended up losing. I remember Bill Stewart wore that baby blue
sweater.
Yeah, sweater. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I remember I could see it from the student section. Like I could see it all the way down there. And of course, a couple weeks before that, you had Geno in Huntington, came all the way back. So you knew Geno had it. Mm-hmm. I'm a huge Geno fan. I think he got the shitty end of a stick on the NFL side, which that point, not saying he would have been Joe Namath, but what I'm saying is it's all about where you go in the NFL.
Oh, 100%, because look at Tavon.
Yeah.
I don't think Tavon's been used properly since he's been drafted.
No, and that's the thing. It's the same thing, not really the same thing, but look at Pat White when he got in the NFL. If
Look,
Pat
I'm a
White is
defensive
10
fan.
years later, if he's
That
10 years later, he's a top
Right.
10 pick.
Mm-hmm.
At least a first rounder.
I thought Pat White died that day on the field when he took that hit.
Man. See, Pat, when to Pat White's credit, is he will always be, when you talk about the best college quarterbacks, and he should be in the College Football Hall of Fame, but I'm pretty sure I read somewhere where he can't be, where you have to be some type of consistent All-American. I don't know what it is.
Right.
If you could find that out for me, please. But I've heard somewhere where you can't be elected to the College Football Hall of Fame. So please, if someone knows, please tell me, because I think it's a travesty right there. This dude went 4-0, 5-0 if you count the Senior Bowl. Okay,
Yep.
2 BCS bowl games, 2-0.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean,
shoot, he beat Oklahoma by 20.
Slaughtered them
20
on a neutral site. Okay, and the Georgia game. Yeah.
We know we all have, we have a very mutual friend.
Yeah,
that is a diehard Georgia fan, but we have to bring that up because look, you've never beat us.
Listen, I told him this, as well. I've been completely honest with him about this. Is if Georgia would have got the ball back, if that Phil Brady fake punt would not have happened, Georgia would have won that game.
Oh
yeah. Oh, dude, you could not stop DJ Shockley. And I talked about this in the last episode. I feel like we just continue to talk about this. But no, for real. The if DJ Shockley and Georgia would have got the ball back, I can't remember how much time was left. I think like a minute something maybe. You couldn't stop.
We'd have lost. 100%.
We would at least, if we would have went to overtime, because they were only up 3. They would all they do was kick a field goal. We would not have lasted maybe 2 overtimes, if that. We had scored. We had 28 the first half.
Thank God for the fake punt.
Thank God for the fake punt. You know what? Because, Rich Rod, this and that, So speaking of that, because, talking about Dana, talking about, we'll bring up Rich Rod, Neal Brown, Don Neal and all them. If you had to pick one, of course, Neal Brown, we can't really, he's
right. Can't gauge him yet.
Can't gauge him yet. So
you're not gonna like my answer.
Who?
I'm taking Rich Rod 100 out of 100 times.
Listen, listen. Thank you, because I'm an activist. I support Rich Rod. Okay.
Do I agree with him throwing the pit game? No. And you're not going to convince me. 100%. Here's why. We beat Pitt. Yeah. We go play for a national championship. We play Ohio State. We beat Ohio State. He brings West Virginia their first ever national championship. Rich Rod's still in Morgantown.
Oh yeah. If Rich Rod, if he wins that, if he beats Pitt, plays Ohio State, more like that's who it would have been. There's a statue of him in his hometown, and there's a statue of him outside the stadium in Morgantown.
But here's why I think he threw the game. All year, we had 4th and goal on the half-yard line against Pitt, and he kicks a field goal, and you have Owen Schmidt running the ball. He wouldn't kick a field goal all season.
Yeah. Well, to that point, and that is a fair point, the two things that I automatically think about when it comes to that game is why would a guy throw a game that is born in West Virginia, went to West Virginia, played for West Virginia.
I can't wait to answer this question.
And literally has an opportunity to go to a national championship the first time since the 1988 season.
Do you want me to tell you why? You want me to tell you why?
Pat McAfee misses field goals. That is one thing that should never have happened that close on those field goals. If he makes those field goals, we win the game. You're probably never. No,
I agree. Let me tell you why he threw the game. Number one, he doesn't go to Michigan. Rich Rod, dream job was Michigan University.
Yeah.
Then he went up there and sucked it up. Well, if we beat Pitt that night and then play Ohio State for a championship, win or lose, he gets an extension because we're playing for a national title.
Yeah.
So he doesn't get the Michigan job. And he's still in Morgantown because he wanted the money.
Yeah. Well, he also wanted power too.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's why I think that he threw that game against Pitt, because the week before UConn, we played UConn in the Big East, basically Big East championship game in Morgantown, and beat them by 20 to 30 points.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was
And then a 4-7 Pitt team comes in.
28.5 point favorite. 28.5 point favorite.
And you lose. And I'm not going to mention the score because it pains me to say that to this day that we lost. Yeah. But we were at that game, and I'm telling you, that season, me and a buddy of mine, we went at Maryland, went at South Florida, went to most of the home games. We were at the Pitt game, and I seen grown men in the stands crying because who knows when we're going to have another chance.
Yeah.
And to this day, I'll take it to my grave that he threw that game. You'll never, no matter what you say to me, you'll never convince me otherwise.
Well, I'll ask you in about 10 years again once it comes back up. We'll give it some more time for that wound to heal. I mean, and that is a fair point. You know, being at some of those games, you know, it's crazy how a game can just, you know, bring out the emotions in that. You know, I felt like, I remember it was of course it's a different sport, but WVU, of course, was the NCAA tournament last year in baseball, playing Texas A&M. Me and a buddy went up. You know, we had tickets all weekend, every single game. You know, we juiced for it. We ended up beating Foreman the night before. I mean, that place was rocking. You know, it felt like a football game in a baseball park, and it was fun as hell. You know, and then we played Duke the next night. Alec Manoah was pitching. Didn't really play very well, lost. So we had to play Texas A&M the next day. I think we were up like 9-1. Had a rain delay. You know, we scored a couple more points, and it was 9-1. They ended up hitting 2 grand slams, and hit a grand slam in the bottom of the ninth, 3-2 count, bases loaded, ends the game right over left field. Mm-hmm. I right there, you know, the whole way home from, you know, that 2.5-2 hour drive. And you know, I'm pretty sure you felt this leaving that stadium plenty of times too. Is that feeling like, what the fuck?
Bro, I'm telling you, that's why if you ever have a daughter in the future, that's why you raise her as a WU fan, because that way when a boy breaks her heart and dumps her, she won't be heartbroken. She'll be like, oh, sorry, I'm a Mountaineer fan. We're used to heartbreak. Yeah. I'm telling you, every year in Morgantown, it's always, oh, this is our year, and then it's not, and you're like, oh, wait till next year. How many times have me and you talked about, oh, next year's the year?
Yeah. I mean, you know, it's one of those things, you know, because football, especially if you look back at the Neyland age, Neyland groomed his teams, especially, you know, not counting the first couple of years, because he had competitive teams every year for a little bit. Then after that, it seemed like every 4 years, every 3 to 4 years, he would have a team that would be like a top 10 contender team.
Oh, yeah.
You look at 83, then you go to 88.
Bro, you talk about the 88 team? Man, if Major Harris doesn't get hurt, West Virginia wins the national championship.
Yeah, that's one of those what ifs in college football, period. You know, and I wish I would have got to see him play, because you always had that discussion between older generations and our generation watching Pat White. It's like, man, Major Harris. My dad says the same thing.
That's something, yeah, mine does too.
And it's just one of those things, you know, like, well, you don't know because you didn't see him, you know.
Right.
Now you can see highlights. You can go on YouTube right now and watch it. You know, I think Pat White's before, not Pat White, but Major Harris before his time. I think Pat White was before his time. If those two guys come out back to back this past 2 draft classes, they're a top 10 pick.
No, without a doubt.
At least a first round pick.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
now don't get me wrong. Dana did have NFL talent.
Yeah.
Not arguing that. But he put more people in the NFL than any previous coach, which I'll respect him for that. But never could recruit, in my opinion. We've talked to a lot of kids, and like the differences between Dana and Neal Brown is shocking to me.
What do they, if you can't say, what do they say is the big differences that they notice? If you can elaborate on it.
With Neal Brown, Neal went to a lot of high schools when he first got the job in West Virginia. Went to West Virginia high schools. A lot of these kids said, yeah, we'll talk to Dana on the phone, but would hardly ever come to a game.
Yeah.
Or come to school and talk to the kid. And if you remember, Dana said he couldn't win a Big 12 championship with the talent in West Virginia.
Yeah. I mean, what kid would want to play for him then if they hear that coming out of it? So that makes me think if I'm even a 5-star player, like where they even say like a Switzer, a 4-star, I'm pretty sure that's what he was.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm Ryan Switzer and I'm a 4-star, which is very underrated in my opinion, should have been 5, but hey, that's just me. I'm not biased or nothing. But and I hear that. Why would I want to play for somebody like that?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And that's why, in my opinion, I mean, Dana was a JUCO coach. He could get the JUCO kids to come in and play and do phenomenal, but he could never recruit from the high school level because you got to think.
Yeah.
My opinion, his best player that he recruited was Carl Joseph, period.
Well, yeah, that's. Let me see.
Because Kevin, the White brothers, Kevin White,
JUCO.
Kazir, all of them were JUCO.
Yep.
Skyler was JUCO. I mean, you just go down the list and it's JUCO or whatever.
Let's see. Yeah, I mean, that's, Dana, like, what was I? Dana just, I think what Dana is, he's a glorified offensive coordinator.
100%.
He, look at him when he was in West Virginia, when he first got there, 2011. Doesn't need to recruit. The players are already there in the system. You have one of the best quarterbacks in the country. You have one of the best athletic receivers in the country, and you have one of the best receivers, all around receivers, Stephen Bailey, who should have won the Blitnikoff in 2012. But that's a whole different story for a different day. So, and it's just plug and play. You bring your system in there, do this and that, and you still had Jeff Castile run the defense, so it wasn't a bum show by the end.
Right.
It seemed like a night and day between 11 and 12 with the defense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I understand you're going to a bigger conference, better offense. I understand that, but
now if you remember, he was an offensive coordinator at Texas Tech too.
Yeah, I mean,
so he knew the Big 12, knew what to do, knew what to run, and just couldn't put 2 and 2 together. I mean, Holgorsen was a bum, and and we'll go from there.
I mean, let me see here. 2019. This is from Ear Sports. All right, this is based off commits. Let's see what Dana's first recruiting class. That'd be 2012, I take it. First full recruiting class. 35th in the country. Okay. 35th, that's 7th in the Big 12. All right, let's go to 2013. 2013 was 30th, 4th in the Big 12. That would have been the one I think he had, because 2012 would have had Carl Joseph in it.
Mm-hmm.
2012, let's see. Forward Childress.
That's Ryder's dude right there.
Look at this. He was a 4-star, okay? 4-star, 14th best position.
Bro, if you want to talk about a quarterback that underperformed while he was in Morgantown, look no further than Jack Allison.
Man, I was really kind of high on him a little bit as a transfer. I was like, man, he's coming from a bigger school. Miami.
4-star recruit coming out of high school.
Yeah, I was like, man. I was like, he's gonna come in right after Will. It's gonna be smooth sailing. But guess what?
Bro, he's at West Liberty. He is at West
wrong.
Liberty now.
Man, you went from fucking Miami to West Liberty. Nothing wrong with West Liberty. But if you're Jack Allison, a 4-star, right? You're going from sunny Miami, setting back, whatever. Guess what? You're going to Morgantown. Nothing wrong with that. Morgantown's fun. We all been there. Then you go to West Liberty. Fuck it.
That's what I don't understand.
He's like,
why? You could go anywhere you wanted after you left WU. Why in the world are you going to the Mountain East Conference or whatever it is with West Virginia State, Glenville, all this?
I mean,
Why are you not going somewhere else?
Here's the only thing Jack Allison is known for in West Virginia. If you ask anybody, he's known for that stupid ass gif against Baylor. That's it.
Oh yeah, yep.
That's it. You ask anyone, man, who the fuck is Jack Allison?
Bro, this is my thing too. Jack Allison and Austin freaking Kendall just need to stop.
Man, Austin Kendall reminds me of a Paul Millard. He's like a rich man's Paul Millard. Paul Millard was the worst quarterback I have ever seen.
Bro, did you know where Chugs
last decade?
You know where Chugs transferred to, right? When he left WU?
Was it Ohio State, wasn't it?
He was the backup quarterback last year in Columbus. And let me tell you the best part. If Justin Fields goes down, you know who your quarterback is?
I mean,
it's freaking Chugginoff.
Listen, I was high on Chugginoff too. I thought the name was cool. Yeah, fit it. Like whenever you look at a recruit, right? You're like, man, he's got a sweet ass name. Imagine, man, Chugginoff throws 50-yard bomb. You know, hell no, he throws a fucking pick. That's what you're
talking about interceptions. Let me tell you this. Dude, talking interceptions. I got to meet this guy at the spring game last year, and he's such a good dude. And we still, stay in contact. Jarrett freaking Brown.
Ooh, man. Listen, Jarrett Brown wasn't bad compared to some of these other bums we're talking
about. Completely agree with that statement. But every time he threw an interception or an incomplete pass, this guy's smiling. Like, what are you smiling about?
Bro, you threw a pick.
We met him and Noel Devine at the spring game last year, and they were nicest people, nicest former players that we've ran into.
Yeah.
We met the white Kevin, Kazir, Karam, met all of them. Great people, but I'm telling Noel had his what was it? The Fiesta Bowl. He played in the Fiesta Bowl, correct?
Yeah.
He had his Fiesta Bowl ring on. And I'm telling you, that thing is beautiful.
Man, hold up. I just saw this. 2016 ranked 39th in the country recruiting.
He could never put it together. Bro, go look at WU's 20 recruiting class and then go look at Houston's 20 recruiting class. I'm telling you.
Listen, I'm sorry for cutting you off about this because what you're talking about is way fucking better. But 57th in 2017. That's 8th. That's good for 8th in the Big 12.
Yeah.
Dana was a horrible, let me just say with a capital H, horrible recruiter. I mean,
you got it up. Go look at WU's 2020 recruiting class, this year's recruiting class, and then go look at Houston's.
All right, so I mean he's averaging between 30 and 39, and 57 now. Like 30th, I think is his highest that I've seen on here. Yeah, that's awful, man. Looking back on that, it's like, damn. Like, no wonder. I mean, really, that's what he was doing, is just filling dudes in with JUCO. That's all it is, But hey, we're glad that's over. Thank God. Thank God for Neal Brown. Because I do agree, I think that, he is a way better recruiter.
Oh, without a doubt.
And that's what you have to have. And it's the same deal with Hoover. You got to, these smaller high schools per se, you got to have good coaching. Now, I think he has that. I think he can coach. I think Dana was more a glorified offensive coordinator.
100%, dude.
Don Nealon. Yeah. Don Nealon could coach. Now as he got older, yeah, but that happens. But these schools that don't have a lot compared to other schools, you had to have good coaching. That's what Hoover has now. That's what WVU has now.
Okay, so let me throw this out here to you. WVU currently, for the 2020 class, is 37th nationally, which is 4th in the Big 12.
Yeah.
Houston, where Holgorsen's at now, is currently 72nd. Fifth in the American Conference.
That's the same conference he left.
Left the Big 12 to come to Morgantown, or left Houston to come to WVU, and can't recruit. How is it harder to recruit to Houston, Texas, than it is Morgantown, West Virginia?
I mean,
that shows you right there that he can't recruit, period.
I mean, that's freaking nuts. Let's see here. I mean, I'm even going back to 2007 was 24th in the nation. Let me see. Let's see. Go to 2004, 38th. So Rich Rod's first recruiting class would have been, say, 2001. Let's see. Sure, 51st.
Let me give you one more fun fact, and we'll wrap this up here. WVU's 21 recruiting class, next year's recruiting class, is already at 45th.
I mean, that's something that's,
Houston's recruiting class for next year is 98th. God, and there's only 120 teams, right?
130.
Okay.
130. Yeah, 130 in FBS.
You're almost 100th out of 130 teams. Like, come on, man.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, he's not, if I was running the school, if I need an offensive coordinator, Dana, what up? Just don't touch recruiting, Stay the fuck away from recruiting,
100%.
But, it's just one of those. I mean, that's why I'm glad, honestly, it was the best thing that could happen to W. Like when he first left, which I knew that bowl game against Syracuse, I feel like something was off. A lot of people say it reminded them of the Pitt game, not in the same sense, but coach not really being there that they noticed themselves.
Bro, we had to win that. We had to try to win that game with Chugs. Like let's.
Yeah. So real quick, I know with Greer setting out that game, how did you feel about that? A lot of people wasn't.
I think he was told to. I think Dana told him not to play. Because Dana knew he was out the door. There's no way possible that he didn't know that he was headed to Houston.
Yeah.
No way. And I think Dana was out the door and he truly didn't care if we won or lost. And he told Greer not to play and said, okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think Dana closing segments here. I think Dana had a lot of great moments.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of great games. The ones I think about, of course, you think about Clemson. You think about the Baylor game. You think about Texas in 2012. You think about Baylor in 2014.
Talk about Texas recently with Greer when he hit that bomb to Jennings and then won the 2-point conversion.
Hell, the Texas game in 2016. That was a damn good game. At Texas, because you're White getting that fumble strip there at the end. That one you had, finally get past Kansas State in 2016. He had some moments. It's just he couldn't keep it together.
And couldn't beat Oklahoma.
Exactly. But hey. But yeah, man, I do appreciate you coming on today. And I know
anytime, man. It was fun.
Yeah, man. So but other than that, follow his page. I'll have his description link and everything in the bio. So you guys can go check him out. If you're into high school sports, anything like that, this is your guy, Jeremy Thompson. But yeah, man, I do appreciate it.
Appreciate you, brother.
All right, man. Peace.